Hello, I am the Godless Engineer. There's nobody watching right now, but I'm sure you'll pick us up later and watch us then. I'm joined tonight by Jason Comio, or Pastor J. He is also the amazing musician that has done my outro music that I've gotten every single one of my videos lately. And we are also joined by Jeremy. He also works with Jason and on the Know the Truth channel as well as the Pastor J character. And guys, say hi.
Well, good morning.
Yeah, because we're all watching it tomorrow.
Right.
I think Jeremy's like, oh, fuck these guys.
Yeah, what's going on?
You're supposed to say good morning.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Wherever you might be.
Tomorrow. If you're in Australia, what's going on tomorrow?
Okay, so the first comment that we're going to be talking about tonight is I got a comment on one of my videos here recently, and it was basically telling me to that Christians are persecuted, and Christians are persecuted, and that I need to stop cussing. They also made some derogatory comments about me living in my mom's basement. It's not true. I own 2 houses. And so I would like to. I'd like to hear you guys. Crap. My goddamn computer is so fucking slow right now. There we go. Finally, I had an echo in my ear because of the damn thing was playing. Okay, so first of all, my response to the comment was just basically laughing at him, saying Christians are being persecuted. How exactly? And also I made the point of, if you're too immature for adult language, then don't watch adult content talking about adult shit. He said that cussing is immature, so that was kind of a throwback in his face. Just to kind of start off this first section of tonight's show, I really, Christians being persecuted is just such a misnomer, and it it's not supported by history at all. There's actually a whole book that a woman wrote where she delves into the background of Christian persecution worldwide, and a lot of the persecution stories that were first invented basically are just complete and utter bullshit. People were actually tried and charged with making up false stories about persecution. So to that first part, yeah, of course, bullshit. But to, I guess, the more interesting part is the cussing. I don't feel like cussing is an immature thing to do at all. I think that curse words can often lend emphasis to what you're trying to say. They can really express how angry you are. In some regions of the country, especially the area that I'm in, cursing is just like normal fucking language. I mean, I know I get it from my mom, not that that's an excuse or anything, but my mom, she would often get really sailorish whenever she would get mad, or even just in general conversation. So just to kind of open this up to Jason and Jeremy here, what do you guys think about about either Christians being persecuted and the cursing thing?
Jeremy, you can go first if you want.
Okay, first of all, in first world countries, of course, Christians aren't being persecuted, especially here in America, where they're the overwhelming majority. And then, and the thing is, people claim persecution when they just don't get their own way, and that's not the same thing at all. We don't want gays to get married, then the state approves that, and then they say they're being persecuted because of it. I don't exactly understand how that works, but that's what they're claiming, and of course it's nonsense. As far as cursing goes, I love it. I think that it really accentuates what you're trying to say, because you can't use bold and italics when you're speaking. So if you want to put an emphasis on a specific sentence or idea or something, use swear words. And I think Lewis Black did a great bit, talking about cursing. It's like, what do people do when they've just been let go of their job that they've had for 40 years? They lose their pension, they lose their retirement. And do they go home and just sit on the couch and go, oh, pussy feathers? Like, no, that person goes home and yells motherfucker as loud as you fucking can.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my take on swearing, at least.
Yeah, it's definitely a punctuation type of thing. But more along this persecution thing, I think at least for me when I was a Christian, it was kind of like this. Can you guys hear me fine?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. It was John, you're sounding funny.
Yeah, he's breaking in and out, it sounds like.
Yeah, I wonder if they can hear us. Or if he can. Can you hear me fine, John?
No, yeah, I can hear you. It's just there's something wonky going on with my computer tonight. Just go ahead.
Okay. No, I was just gonna say with this whole persecution complex, it's almost like a almost like a rite of passage. I feel. Fuck. There was a book written a long time ago called The Fox's Book of Martyrs, where all it talked about was people that got martyred for Christ, and somehow I feel like people that had to go through that, it somehow justified their belief, like as if their belief was true. And we know that that's not the case now. I mean, look at the Heaven's Gate cult. Look at Jonestown. These people died for a belief that didn't make their beliefs any more true than Christian martyrs. And so I feel like this day and age, like that's all they really have to make it seem like what they're going through, quote unquote, is legit. And so if somebody makes this claim and we call bullshit, the only way I think they can take that is, oh, you're against me. Now I'm being persecuted. But the funny thing is from what I see, I feel like the rhetoric is kind of like reverse, where you have a lot more. It seems you have a lot more, Christian leaders making claims like, if I was running this country, I would move all the atheists out of the country or whatever. Maybe not in those words, but like none of us are saying that. None of us are trying to kick Christians out of the country. None of us are stopping Christians from running for office. Like we don't have the ground to stand on. And so whenever I hear this, oh, we're being persecuted, I'm like, no, there's no way. And I'm not saying that we're being persecuted either. I'm just saying, like, if someone's going to cry persecution, it's definitely, they have no right, I don't think.
Yeah, that's basically called privilege, not persecution.
Right.
Yeah, I would definitely say that there is a hefty amount of Christian privilege in America today, and I know that we're going to get more into that later with these various news stories that I've got lined up. But yeah, so I mean, I get comments like that on my channel all the time. Talking about my cursing and whatnot, especially with my older videos. Here lately I've tried to phase it out a little bit just because it seems to hinder some people. That I don't see that as me changing, myself, but more or less like I'm kind of feeling out what's acceptable and what'll get my message heard. How do you guys feel about that tactic?
I think it's a great tactic, to be honest with you. I mean, if you had the mindset of I'm going to put out videos or I'm going to create content and I don't care who listens to it, then you shouldn't change regardless of what people think. But if you are trying to do something where you're trying to be heard, where you want both sides to hear your argument, and you start to get a lot of feedback, no matter how rude the feedback is, if they're saying, you lost me because you're cursing a lot, even if we think that's silly, I think if you are trying to reach a broader audience, I don't think there's anything wrong with going, okay, fair enough. Let me pull back the reins a little bit and let me try a different tactic. So I think it's fine. I don't think you're changing because they want you to change. I think they're giving you some kind of criticism, whether it's constructive or not, and you're just taking that in and going, okay, what do I want for my future? How do I want to be presented in the future?
I say sack up and quit being a little bitch. Honestly, like, if you can't handle language, I mean, what is language? Language is just sounds, that you connotate to have a specific meaning. So these people are basically saying they're getting offended by sounds you're making. That's stupid. I don't understand. I don't really get censorship at all. I'm actually very much against censorship. So if you need to use a fuck or a bullshit or something to accentuate what you're saying, you can say, yeah, that's nonsense. Okay, but so people might take that lightly. But if you say that's some bullshit, people know that you really mean this. Really does not make any sense to me. So I think it's important in that context.
And to be clear, I agree with you. I agree we shouldn't censor each other. What I'm getting at, though, is like, this is for me, and it's not, I wouldn't call this selling out, but if my goal was to reach a wider audience, and that was, that was one of the things that was preventing, because honestly, people are going to get offended. It's the way it is. And we could sit here all day and say, like, oh, those are just sounds, what the fuck's wrong with these people? That's fine. That's true. I agree with you. But if I was trying to do something or create content where I did want those people to hear what I was trying to do, I probably would, cut back just so they can hear. They're still probably going to disagree with me fundamentally, but at least if I cut back, at least now they're going to hear what I'm saying, and now we can have a different type of discussion, and it can open up the dialogue, I think. And that becomes a personal choice. It's not saying like, oh, you shouldn't do that. Because again, I agree with you, Jim. I know exactly what you're saying, but.
Well, and I agree with Jeremy too, and that's actually, the stance that I took first, because I wasn't gonna let somebody tell me, hey, you need to stop cussing, and then just me be like, oh, okay. Right. I wasn't gonna be like that. And so, I didn't change it first, but I did feel like a slight change was needed. I felt like I was struggling to put in some curse words that were, and it just made the content not flow as well. So, I mean, there were multiple reasons for me to actually cut back on my cursing, but there's no way I'm ever going to take out cursing from my personality in general.
Even Pastor J curses a lot. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that it's fine, but once it's overused, it gets annoying. It does get annoying. Like, I don't know if you've ever met one of those people who can't figure out what to say next, so they always throw in like "fucking." Do you know one of those people?
Oh yeah.
They're like in the middle of a sentence and they can't think of how to finish it, so they're like "fucking."
The other day I was fucking going to the fucking gas station. Fucking this fucking guy. He went to go give me these fucking cigarettes, right? Fucking. Like, whoa.
That's just as bad, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you use it correctly, it's an effective tool.
Yeah.
And there are some people who I see online and who make videos who do use swear words way too much, and it really does turn even somebody like me off, because you're like, you're not making yourself valid at this point. You're completely invalidating your argument because you're just talking like an idiot.
And even like even for me or anybody, like if I'm around somebody that doesn't curse a lot, and then when they do curse, it's like now I know they mean business. Now I'm like, whoa, okay.
Yeah. Hey, my mom's like that.
Yeah. By the way, one of the a Christian found me out because they said I wasn't a real pastor in one of my videos because I cussed. So. Yeah,
that was funny as hell.
Go ahead, John. Sorry.
Yeah, you're not a real pastor because you curse. I like to see them come down to the south.
Yeah.
Okay. So to move on, an Ohio lawmaker was caught laughing as one of his fellow colleagues was recounting a rape that she had, and then she subsequently had to have an abortion from it. This is on the heels of this discussion in Ohio about this law wanting to be passed through, where the first sign of a heartbeat means that you can't have an abortion anymore. Now, just to stress, when a fetus actually has a heartbeat, I mean, it's like the heart is the first thing to form. Like, it forms, and then that powers the rest of the body, whatnot, and it allows for, like, neural connections to form and everything like that. It also happens within, like, the first 5 weeks, maybe. And a lot of times people or women, couples, they don't find out they're pregnant until, later on, like 6 to 8 weeks. And so this is really going to invalidate a lot of need. And this one particular woman wanted to bring up the situation of rape. And it really felt like to her, and I agree wholeheartedly, that it just seems like government is making decisions about people's individual bodies at this point. They already kind of do that already with drug regulations and whatnot. I feel that, like, for instance, the marijuana regulations that are on the federal level and on several state levels needs to be changed because it's scientifically proven that it's not harmful, just like abortion is not harmful. Sometimes it's necessary. There was a woman in Ireland about a year ago who actually died in the hospital because it was a run hospital and they didn't do abortions. The only way that she could have survived is to have an abortion. So there's just a lot of things around this particular subject, and the fact that in the legislative body of Ohio laughed at a woman because she got raped and she had an abortion is just fucking appalling. So, let me know y'all's opinion on this. Like, I don't know if you guys saw the story today, but if you're just now hearing it, what are your thoughts?
What part did he? I mean, and this is a stupid question. Shouldn't laugh at all. But what part did he laugh at exactly? Like, was it when she said she got raped and he laughed, or was he laughing?
No, it wasn't an immediate thing. No. Well, I don't know if he was laughing the whole time. She just happened to notice when near the end of the little segment when she was talking about how she had served in the military and everything like that, and then she's like, "I see you back there laughing." So my guess is that he was probably laughing before then, and she just so happened to catch him. So and she mentions that this is serious business. And even if he wasn't paying attention to her and he was paying attention to something else and he was laughing at that, he shouldn't have been like he's a fucking lawmaker, and he's supposed to listen to his constituents and whatnot. So
yeah, it's definitely unprofessional. I feel like, though, I'm not surprised. I feel like a lot of things that happen in this country, especially in regards to politics, it's hard for me to be shocked and surprised anymore. I mean, we live in a country where men actually still think that if a woman wears anything, she deserves to get raped. Like, it's the year 2015, and we have grown men that still have that thought process. And so, I think it's I think it's horrible. No matter what the context, what he was laughing, and I think it's still horrible. I don't know. I also think too, like, when you are, and I'm generalizing here, but if you're one of those Christians that is anti-abortion, you're pro-life because God says so, I think you really need to look into the story of David and Bathsheba a little bit more, see how God treats babies, to see how he lets them suffer and then die because a woman got raped by a king. So, yeah.
I just want to say that none of these people are pro-life. That's bullshit. The pro-birth.
Yeah.
They all vote for politicians who want to cut any kind of funding to help single mothers or any child who's possibly has a rough start in life. So basically, they're like, once you're born, you're on your own. Sorry. So yeah, it's bullshit to begin with. I'm starting, and I just want to say that, like, every day, I see something about American politicians that make me honestly believe that House of Cards is very realistic. They're all psychopaths and sociopaths. They really don't care about anything except for their next contributions coming from. And the only reason why they even pretend to care about things such as religion and abortion and stuff is because they know that they can't win votes with just the business people. They need the religious backing too. That's where a lot of their votes come from. And also, I don't understand the whole anti-abortion thing, especially if you're going to claim to be pro-life, because if you take a look at what happened after Roe v. Wade was passed, 20 years after Roe v. Wade was passed, we had a significant drop in homicides, and that it was due to less people being born into poor neighborhoods, and less people selling drugs, less people committing crimes to get money, which led to fewer homicides. So there is a correlation between abortion and fewer homicides. So no, they're not pro-life at all. Anyway, to go back to the guy laughing, yeah, that's pretty despicable. I don't know if he read a funny tweet, he wasn't even paying attention to what she was saying. It doesn't matter why he was laughing. His timing was bad, and he's a jackass for doing it, regardless.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that she actually spoke up and called him out, because, like you said, it doesn't matter what the reason was. It would be especially horrible if he was actually laughing at her being raped. But it's just there was totally the inappropriate time to be doing anything else. He really just needed to be paying attention to what he was doing, there in the first place. How do you think this kind of plays into this idea of the patriarchy or whatnot in America? I mean, me personally, I think the term patriarchy has kind of been overused, and it's to that point of when Jason back there was like fuckity fuck, and it's just being used a lot. I do agree that there is a lot of bias towards men, in our country, but at the same time, it's I don't know, weird ground there. I mean, what do you guys think about that?
Jeremy, go first.
This is actually a conversation I don't really deal with a whole lot, because I'm not very good at philosophy. I'm more of a facts-based person and science and stuff like that. So I don't really delve into this area that much. Yeah, there are some areas where men definitely do have an advantage in this country, but there are other areas where women have a small advantage as well. I'm not saying that they're equal at all. I'm not saying that one makes up for the other by any means, but I do agree with you that sometimes the word patriarchy is thrown around quite a bit. But when you see something like a panel of 12 men who are put in charge of making abortion laws or any laws regarding reproductive rights, that's horseshit, and that does validate the patriarchy claim, at least a little bit, because that's not fair. Where are the women on that panel? So we can allowed to speak for themselves, allowed to speak for their own gender, and so yeah, I do think that it has been used a little bit too much in common language and with common claims, but there are some aspects which do show that we do have somewhat of a patriarchal society, and that's just being one of them.
We even have situations, and I remember on a show I used to be on, there was a discussion where the question was proposed to this gentleman. I can't remember his name, but I know he was asked that if there was a panel of so many people, if there was one woman and there was, let's say, 5 guys, and the woman had a college degree, PhD, she knew whatever they were going for, she knew everything about everything, and these guys didn't. Will they vote for the woman or still vote for the guys just based on the fact that she was a woman? And I feel, I can't say this for a fact, but I feel like in this country that there are people out there that would still vote for the men, regardless of what that woman knows. And I think that's something we have to work towards changing, within ourselves and within society. So yeah, I mean, that's all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that doesn't even go for just male female. That goes for races as well, and sexuality, and even religion. Bring religion into it. People would. Polls were taken, and people would much rather vote for a Christian than an atheist. Yeah. Even if the Christian was dumb as dog shit. I mean, look how that Gomer guy got in fucking Louis Gomer, whatever the hell his name is. Look how he got elected. That guy couldn't probably even be a manager for Walmart, let alone running a state.
Hold on. Okay, I can just imagine Louis Gomer. I can just imagine him running a Walmart. Be like, all right, now I know you women have this thing that you got to do every month, but I don't really care.
Don't you have a way to shut all that down? Yeah, it's ridiculous. But yeah, you're right. I think that in some instances, people would vote just for the male, just because they are male.
Yep.
Well, kind of going back to what you guys were saying about, politicians pandering to their voter base, basically. That's very true, because if you look at just our last couple of presidents, started with George W. Bush. His last interview as he was going out of office, actually, he said that he thought evolution was actually valid, but before that, he thought that evolution and creation should be taught on level playing fields. But at that last one, he had nothing to lose. So what was the point? He didn't have to pander to anybody. He could just be honest about it. And then there was Barack Obama. When his first term, he was against marriage equality. But then, after his last term, or after he got elected for his last term that he could serve, he doesn't have to pander to it. He doesn't have to worry about losing popularity or votes or anything like that. So he came out in support of marriage equality. And so there's a lot of politicians that really just pander to their base. And I think that really defeats even the purpose of having the kind of government that we have.
Yeah.
Because we're supposed to elect people that we want in there, that represent what we want, and they.
It's almost like we kind of fuck ourselves, because without realizing it, like, our leaders are slaves to the majority's mindset, right? Because you have a lot of people. I know one of our close friends, Sarah, her husband's, he's been running for office. He's an atheist. But the problem is like a lot of these, and I hate to generalize, but it seems like most of the leaders that we have are there because they basically allow themselves to be a certain way that they might not have been because of what the majority says in society. And so we have this country that we live in where we're a free country and we vote, and that's like the greatest thing that we have. We vote, yet we kind of fuck ourselves in a way, because everyone that we vote in office, they're just basically telling us what we want to hear for the most part, and everyone else that actually does want to stand up and actually stay true to themselves, they get pushed by the wayside. Because
exactly. And that I think with the whole debate about the Affordable Care Act, that was a big one. I mean, that really showed that, because you had these politicians who were telling people, hey, you're not going to want this, and so you had people vehemently, especially in social media, defending what they were saying, and they had no idea what the Affordable Care Act was. They had no idea, what it was going to entail, what kind of coverage you could get, what kind of coverage you couldn't get. They knew none of the details. But they're like, oh no, this is going to be a drain on the economy, which they, is because the politicians, that's what they were arguing, and they were wrong. It actually cut our medical spending by quite a bit. So yeah, I mean, a lot of times it goes both ways. Either our politicians listen to us, or we have to listen to them. And that's not the way it should be. They should have to listen to us.
Right.
I completely agree, and I think that I really don't think that we're going to see an end to this problem anytime, especially with the fact that Ted Cruz is going to be running for president, or president, as I like to say.
I love that. I love that he's running. The reason why is because I mentioned this to a friend the other day. It doesn't really matter. Like, if he gets a nomination, that'd be one of the greatest things for liberals in this country, because the liberals could literally put a bologna sandwich against him, and the bologna sandwich would win. There's no way he's winning that presidency, because there's no way that the moderate Republicans in this country are going to vote for him. They're too smart for that.
Yeah.
Now the crazy right-wing teabaggers will, but they're still somewhat on the fringe. And you see in social media that the more moderate Republicans are already bashing him for this.
Yeah.
So I really hope he does get the nomination, to be honest. That'd be awesome for us. That would give us another 4 years in the White House for sure.
We basically have a circus. Like, in a way, like, part of me wishes that I could view our country through, like, another country's eyes. Like, not that I'm not proud of being American, just for anybody watching, but it's like I would love to see how other people view us, because it's like we see people like this that run for office. We see what this has turned into. We see how there's so many fucking moving parts that, like, it's like nobody's on it. Oh, again, I'm generalizing, and I hate doing that, but it seems like nobody's as honest as they should be, and nobody, everyone's like, I fight for this, I fight for that, but do you though? I mean, and even if you did and you got in office, are you going to do anything that you said you're going to do? I mean, because I don't know, it's silly to me. The whole thing is just silly. The way this country does things.
If you want to figure out what it would be like for Ted Cruz, somebody like Ted Cruz, to win office in America, take a look at what happened to Australia. Look at them right before Tony Abbott got elected, and then look as prime minister, and then look at them now after. That's exactly what would happen to us. Exactly.
I don't even know what happened there. So
yeah, they were the only country in the world to survive, to completely be untouched by our global recession. They were fine. They made it through fine. And then Tony Abbott gets into office and just torpedoes the whole country. Like, just take a look at the numbers prior and afterward. It's horrible.
I'm pretty weak in my politics. So anything I say is usually more emotionally based or generalization based. So I was into politics a while ago, and when I was a Republican, and so I just want to say that now, so anybody that's watching anything I've said, I'm out of touch.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I'm not that well versed, I guess, in the finer points of politics. But I mean, I have opinions, so
yeah.
Does mean that I'm good for politics, right?
right. I think at the end of the day too. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I was going to change subject, so you go ahead.
No, I was just going to finish that off by saying I think at the end of the day, when it comes to those types of discussions, I mean, really talking politics can it can be very very wishy-washy, because of course everyone's got an opinion, everyone's got a side, and so it can definitely be a touchy subject to really tackle, I think, at least for me. So some people are better at it, but
yeah, I don't really like talking politics myself. I like talking economy. That's something I'm really good at, because I actually almost did go into economics when I was in college, but I decided against it.
You're so boring.
I know. But yeah, I like talking economics because I like looking at the numbers, and I just read what the numbers say.
Yeah.
There's no opinion there. The numbers they're facts. Yeah. And so, like I said, I try and stay away from philosophy as much as possible.
Right.
So I like to stick to the facts. So I don't like talking politics. I like talking economics.
Well, Jeremy, that's interesting you bring that up, because would I be correct in assuming that you've read Freakonomics?
Not all the way through, but yes, I have. Most of it.
Okay. Yeah. Because I've read both Freakonomics and Super Freakonomics, and I just love both of those books, because I mean they really do. I mean, it's written by economists.
Yep.
And economists just they look at the raw data, and to me, see, this is the one problem that I run into personally, is that I know that I'm biased, okay, because I'm human. I admit that. Since I admit that, I can actually get past it. I can try to be objective about things, and I feel that the only way that you can really be objective is to look at raw data and look at well collected data, and so that's why I'm always so timid, I guess, about talking about, like, the patriarchy thing and all that kind of stuff, because I really don't know where to stand with it, because I mean I don't feel like I have all the data. I don't feel like anybody's getting all the data, and it just makes me almost want to scream sometimes when people just blurt out things without having on the subject of the whole patriarchy issue. I mean, they'll just blurt out something, and I guess maybe that's why the whole word kind of grates on my nerves a little bit. I mean, I know that it does exist on some level in our country, and that we were in the past a very patriarchal society, but it's just kind of like I love data. I love looking at the data, because I feel like that is the only way that we really be objective about our reality.
Yeah.
How would you guys feel about that?
At that point, it becomes a science. It's something that you can study, you can test, and you can. It's either demonstrably true or false, and that's awesome. And once you take the opinion out, the conversation becomes much easier, and once you take the emotions out, it becomes easier still. And so that's what I've always tried to do, is just try and state the facts, and if there's an opinion part, I try and stay out of it.
And it's tough to do that too, though, because I mean, at least for me, and I agree with you, but it's definitely tough because, and I admit that I'm biased too. I feel like a lot of the bias, though, stems from experience with the opposing side. I know, for one, for most of my life, I had Republican leanings. I used to listen to Michael Savage, who's got a PhD in botany, yet still has the balls to write like a book called "Liberalism is a Mental Disorder" and shit like that. And so, for the longest time, I didn't even know what a fucking liberal was for the long. I just was like, oh, Michael Savage says that liberals they're mentally, disabled. So there we go. And then as I became an atheist and I started like kind of reviewing my, how I look at life, I realized that I started to lean more towards, liberal, the liberal thought process. But even now. Now I'm biased, but it's kind of in a different way where I'm biased against Republicans. But now I at least know, for the most part, where Republicans stand. And so I do like to stick to facts, but sometimes it's hard to not be emotional when somebody, especially within politics, somebody who might be Republican might say something completely stupid. And it's hard not to get emotional with that. And I'm not saying all Republicans do that. I'm just saying that, like, I hear you, but it's tough, man. Especially in politics, it's tough to not be emotional.
Well, as far as a bias goes, I do have a bias. It's not my fault, though. It's not like I picked one or the other.
Yeah,
it's just that, as they say, facts have a liberal bias. And so I follow the facts. I just look at what the facts say, and whatever's true, that's what I stick to. And that's why I don't really like picking one politician over another either. It's just like, I won't vote for a specific party or anything like that. I'll take a look at everything both candidates or all the candidates are presenting, and I'll pick the ones that are closest to what I know to be true, and I know what will work, and I know what won't work. I vote against that one.
Yeah.
So, like trickle-down economics, I'll vote against that one every single time.
Yeah.
Because it's never worked. It's always failed. So yeah, I do have that bias where where the facts lay. That's where I go.
Well, yeah, to kind of change the subject just a little bit, still kind of staying on politics, kind of. You guys know the Family Research Council, right?
Fuck those people.
I don't.
Fuck those people.
That's how out of touch I am with politics. So, give me a synopsis.
Well, it's an independent Christian organization that likes to do quote unquote research. On current political things, basically. They were also the people that were very supportive of Chick-fil-A when they had their whole thing back about a year or so ago.
Yep.
But anyways, I know that they're pretty close to being labeled as a hate group, if that gives you any kind of indication.
And what
Tony Perkins, Family Research Council.
Okay, go ahead.
The FRC.
Okay.
The president, Tony Perkins, actually says that there's going to be an uprising of Christians if marriage equality passes this summer. Because, this summer, the Supreme Court is actually going to be taking a look at the policy federally on marriage equality. And despite Roy Moore's attempts to, supersede the federal government, it's going to pass in the summer. So marriage equality is coming, basically threatening World War, or not World War, but Civil War II. No dicks in my ass.
Look, I hope one of those people cries persecution complex. And if we're talking about that, there's gonna be an uprising of Christians if they pass something because two people love each other. Fucking persecution complex, huh? Like, so I don't know.
Wow.
I welcome it. It would be so interesting to see exactly what they're going to do. What they're going to do, march. They can't really do much. The next civil war isn't going to be possible for the simple fact that all the federal government would have to do is cut off all their supply lines, energy, power, internet, phone. They could do all that. So they'd be pretty much in the dark. They'd be back to the Stone Age.
Yeah, there's only
the rest of America would be fine.
Yeah, there's only so much they can do. I mean, you look at a lot of these riots, like kind of what Jeremy was saying. If you look at a lot of these riots that have happened in the last, 25 years, 50 years. I mean, some of them have gotten out of hand, but for the most part, it really, these protests or these uprisings really don't get that far before the government comes in and stomps on some dick. So, I hope, like anyone, I hope marriage equality gets passed across the board. But I am curious to see how this would play out with these people that are making these threats about uprising. I'm curious to see what they actually mean by that.
I am too, because I just don't really see a Christian uprising really going well. Because not only do you have to account for the people, yeah. Not only do you have to account for the people, the Christians that don't support their craziness, that not necessarily don't consider them true Christians or whatnot, but they're just like, well, that's not what my religion says.
Right.
And so they're discounting those people. They're also discounting the large number of nuns that are growing, and they're leaving churches because of their non-support of the LGBT community. Of course, those churches that are not supporting the LGBT community are actually coming out against them and basically saying, "Hey, we want to kill you, but let's be friends until we can." Right?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say something not even important to the conversation, but it almost seems as if we have all these different denominations and everybody's starting to disagree with everybody. I'm not that Christian. It's like they're all becoming their own little cults. So when this FRC, when they talk about we're gonna rise up, I just imagine 10 of them flipping the fuck out and coming out of their churches with pitchforks while the rest of the Christians are like, you guys are stupid, knock it off.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You have to think of how many different denominations there are in the U.S. of Christianity, and only a handful are anti-LGBT.
Yeah.
So they don't even have their own denomination support. They don't even have their own belief support in this country. I'm guessing maybe 1 to 3% of Americans may think along these lines, and they're usually the most vocal. The rest, and then you probably have this huge margin just don't care, and then you have a large portion on the other side which are in support of same-sex marriage.
Or you even have the people that aren't for it, but they don't really think that they might have this mindset of the country's going to go down the tubes, but we're okay because even though we disagree with it, we're not backing them up. So there's so many different types, man.
Yeah, what is it now? 12 states have laws now that you can not serve people who are gay in your place of business.
Right.
I know Indiana just signed theirs today. So, that's such horseshit. And yet they're the ones screaming persecution when they're allowed to. If I lived in one of those states, if I saw somebody come in with a cross around their neck, I wouldn't serve them. Seriously, get the fuck out.
No, but the dangerous part about that, and I'll probably get a lot of shit for this, but the dangerous part about that is that person that's wearing the cross around the neck, they might even agree with us and go, yeah, those people are stupid. I don't stand for what they stand for, and I'm one of those people, and you guys know this about me. I don't like to generalize. I do. Everyone does it, but to sit there and say that every atheist is this way, or every Christian is this way, or every it's not that black and white to me. There's so many moving parts in this world that you can't. It's hard for me to label. So even if I lived in a state where there was a restaurant right next door to me that was yeah, we ain't serving no queers. Well, if somebody walked into my store wearing a cross around the neck, granted they probably wouldn't know I was an atheist, but even if they did, I'm not gonna. I can't assume that they're those same people, and I'm just gonna. I want the money,
Fair enough. Yeah, and I actually,
Yeah.
Also, we have to be the bigger man in the situation.
Exactly.
Too.
Yeah. And that's how I view a lot of this. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say it really makes me want to start like an online organization that whose religious belief is that that you shouldn't pander to Christians and have it be kind of like, because there's this American Marriage Ministries and there's several other organizations that ordain regardless of your belief and be able to marry people, be able to do marriages, and so I'm just kind of curious, like, what's to prevent us from starting a religion, like kind of like Pastafarianism or anything, or something like that, but have it solely based on the fact that we're supposed to not even associate with Christians, and then we could apply those laws, be like, oh, sorry, you're a Christian, I can't serve you McDonald's.
I think
you can't, no.
Now, I would disagree with that only based on the simple fact that we're dealing with. I think we're dealing with children here, and nothing we do is going to make them see our point of view. We could do that, and they're not going to get it. I mean, fucking most satire, most humor is lost on these. And again, I'm generalizing, but most humor could be lost on these people. And I feel like it's not that I want to ignore the problem, but it's like even doing something like that, it's not going to make it better because they're not going to see themselves and they're going to look at us and go, look at these fucking asshole atheists. Man, I told you they were fucking dicks. Like, oh my god.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying, and it's a great idea, but I'm looking at how I would have acted as a Christian, and I'm like, eh.
You know what I would like to do? I would like to start.
Absolutely, anybody can join.
Yeah.
I would like to start a charity, which would for same-sex couples who wish to get married, if they're in a state which don't allow them to get married, we would pay for them to fly to like Denver or Seattle, where it is legal, so they can get married there, and maybe give them like a honeymoon suite at a hotel or something. I think that would be cool.
Yeah, because the best thing we can do in these kind of situations, and this is my opinion, is instead of instead of stooping to their level, is we actually rise above that, and we do the best we can to kind of ignore what they're doing and just do our own thing and allow these allow people to be who they are. And John's not even fucking paying attention to us, motherfucker. I think his wife is correcting him.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But
we need to rise above them, rise above the situation at least.
But see what John says. I mean, he makes a good point, because as human beings, we almost want to react that way, because it's almost like our way of being like, you guys are so fucking stupid. This is exactly how you look, and so I can understand that, because even I think it'd be fucking great, but
And one of the points I brought up is, this doesn't just affect Mormons or anything like that, or affect gay people. Like, let's say the person says they're a Mormon, and in the Book of Mormon it says, those who have darker skin are furthest from God. What stops a Mormon shop owner saying, I'm doing my rights, I'm observing my rights, so I don't want to serve any black people or Native Americans or Muslims or Hispanics because they've got darker skin, they're not white. And so they can't, so I think that they're possessed by demons or they're cursed or whatever that Mormons believe. So there's a serious slippery slope here.
It is,
and it's scary. So I don't know, in one fell swoop, they can really take us back 50, 60, 70, 80 years,
Yeah.
Well, even in the atheist community, I've really been seeing this opinion that anybody should be able to discriminate based on anything they want to, because it's their own private business. But then when you try to apply that logic to our current system, that completely invalidates the act that I can't remember what the act is called, but the anti-discriminatory act that does it based on sex and religion and race and all that. And all we have to do, seriously, all we have to do is amend that to add sexual orientation. That's it. That's all we got to do. But, for some reason, these people are fighting tooth and nail to be able to discriminate against people for no reason at all. Literally, it's an arbitrary It would be like me being like, nope, you got freckles, fuck off.
You would think that somebody
kind of deal. And the pure.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to, go ahead.
Well, I can't remember what I was gonna say. You go ahead.
Well, no, I was just gonna say I can't make sense of this, right? I look at the news. I see a majority of what a lot of what a lot of people are saying, and it's like everything is about anti-homosexuals, anti-LGBTQ, and you would think that somebody told these people if they do this, the world's gonna completely end. But that's exactly what they fucking want. And so I'm so confused right now because you don't hear about them. You don't hear them. Not all of them, at least. I'm sure some of them are. So, but you don't hear a lot of them talking about, the priests that touch kids, about pedophiles, about, the murder rates in different. It's always about the LGBT community. But then again, like I just said, you think that they're so scared of the fact that this becomes a thing, countrywide, the world just ended.
Here's the thing.
But I'll have to see it again. If the world ends, that's kind of what they want. So what the fuck's, I don't know.
They all seem to have this mindset that they can do no wrong, and those who think like them can do no wrong as well. You see it how they address different political issues, politicians in general, and religious figureheads. And yeah, it's stupid. I don't understand it either.
I will disagree and say that they don't have that mindset because their whole premise in life is that they're born wrong. They just have a get out of jail free card, basically. So they do admit that they're the worst human scum on the planet, but they have somebody who killed himself for them, so they're good. So technically,
yes, so they can say that they're sorry at the end and all is forgiven.
Right. So I just, oh man. Yeah.
Well, kind of speaking about Christian privilege and how they're not being persecuted and how they're wanting to be discriminatory and whatnot, there's actually, in Arizona, there's actually a bill that's being proposed that would make church service or church attendance mandatory. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I saw that earlier today, too, and the comment I was going to make is, that I made earlier was, if you look up the definition of church, church is just a gathering of people. It's not the building itself. It's just a gathering of like-minded people. So you could technically get, 50 cinephiles together and go to a movie theater every week and go watch a movie, and you could consider that church. So yeah, it's stupid, to try and do that. And you know what's really funny though? These are the same people who the woman who proposed this bill, she's anti-big government. That's one of these things I can't say. Is they're all against big government until it works in their favor, and then they're all for controlling the lives of other people.
This is also a reason. I had a friend message me last night on Facebook. A really good friend of mine, and his question was legit, but he asked me, why do I pick on Christians, and more or less was he was more tactful than that, but I told him basically, it's what I know, it's what I'm familiar with, it's the country that I live in where Christianity is predominant, so it's just it's easy to attack, it's easy to make fun of, but that's what you just said right there. That's probably one of the reasons why I do make. Why I do focus on it. It's because people are trying to pass shit like that. These anti-big government people are trying to pass laws where we're supposed to go to the church. And on a side note, what frustrates me about that is that going to fix anything? All you're going to have is a bunch of piss-off people who are ultimately going to become a group of 50 people that are just going to go watch a movie together, probably a secular movie. And so it doesn't fix anything. It just makes you look like an asshole because you're trying to pass these laws to make us do something that we don't want to do in the first place. And now we're going to find other ways of not doing it the way you want, which is going to make you make things illegal, which is going to, oh my God, damn people. Next, we're all going to jail because we're not going to the church that you told us to go to. That's
the answer I always give too when I'm asked, why do you pick on Christianity more than I do Islam or Buddhism or anything? It's because Muslims and Buddhists are not trying to make laws which affect my lives in my country. It's the Christians. So that's why I'm speaking out against them.
And it doesn't mean that I don't think that some of those people in other countries are doing stupid things. It's just, it's not here. That's a simple.
And yet we do actually speak out. I'm sorry, go ahead, John.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say we do actually speak out about a bunch of those things that they have going on in other countries, like public beheadings and women not being allowed to drive or speak on cell phones or having to wear beekeeper outfits when it's 150 degrees outside. So yeah, we do speak out, but not as much because it's not as predominant in our country as it is in other places in the world. So it doesn't directly affect us as much. So you don't have to directly, deal with it.
And I'll be honest too. There's also a selfish reason why I don't talk about specifically Muslims because, Jeremy and I and a few of the other scriptwriters that help me out with my videos, we do satire, comedy videos. It's really hard to make light of somebody getting their head chopped off. So, it's really hard to make light of the fact that a woman got raped and now she's going to be executed after she has her baby. And so, like, it's not that I don't recognize that these atrocities are happening around the world, but if I'm going to create content on my own YouTube channel where I'm going to attack something, of course I'm going to attack easy shit like, a donkey talked in the Bible because it's fun, videos are quick to make, we're done. Somebody laughs, the world's a better place. It's hard for me. I can't laugh. Some people can. Some people can make light of it, but I can't laugh about like somebody getting their head chopped off or a woman getting raped. So that's a good answer, I think.
Well, yeah, and a lot of times when I make images for like my my page, a lot of people confuse my more serious posts with my comedic posts.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, today, there was a church sign that said, like, sometimes your plans don't work out because God has better plans. And then I merged that with a picture of a scared child that said, why is child rape a better plan?
Right.
And that's not meant to be funny. That's meant to be, serious and really kind of thought-provoking. And it's not supposed to be offensive necessarily. It's supposed to get people to think about, well, fuck, if God has a better plan, why is rape and child rape and all this other horrible shit part of his good plan? And that's when you really find out if a person really honestly subscribes, to their belief system, like hardcore subscribes to it, or because those kind of people, they will actually make excuses for it. Like, well, there's of course the free will argument that kind of falls flat on its face, though, because I don't know. I guess I just don't understand the concept or the idea of somebody else's free will being able to break somebody else's plan, like for God's plan for somebody else. Because it makes total sense to me, their theology, that you have free will and you have the free will to affect your own life, basically, right? But apparently free will reaches outside of the scope of the single person, and it can actually affect of no free will of the other person. Right, so basically, if I'm thinking this out right now, so basically, there's sin in the world, and there's this free will because we're not just blindly serving God, because of some arbitrary thing that happened to no effect, not because of anything you did, but because of just the pure fact that you were born. That is the reason why you got raped. I mean, does that sound off at all?
No, and what you're doing too is you're looking at something that somebody said, and you're kind of picking a hole in their argument. You're taking a phrase and going, it's not that easy, buddy, and you're posting it out there. I do want to add that there are people in this community that do cover other religions, like Paul Sading from Koranify Me. I think Deborah McTaggart works with him too on that. But that's exclusively what he does. He deals with those issues. And the thing, I mean, his podcast is great. But I feel like he can cover it because he does a better job. He's a lot more serious about it. So I feel like we all have our own way of doing things. And I feel like if I were to do a serious podcast or like a serious video series that was away from the Pastor J stuff, maybe I could cover that stuff better. But I have to stick with what I know is going to work, and making light of those things won't work with what I do. So I guess I should have told him that last night because I don't know what I said, but yeah. But what you said, John.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna add one more thing. The way you approach it, John. You approach it in a better way than I could have, because you're just poking a hole in an argument. You're saying, look, is that what you're gonna say? Well, how about this? Now you're demanding an answer from him. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Well, I was gonna just add to what you're saying. Yeah, Pastor Jay. I mean, he's a right-wing Christian conspiracy theorist. Like, the only way we could really touch on subjects like Islam or anything like that would be is if we did the typical what the xenophobic Republicans are doing, and copy their stupid arguments against Islam, and just reiterate those. And I mean, you can see them on any Fox News post. So I mean, I don't really see a point in really addressing them on our platform. So I think that it is best to leave it to people who A, have experienced it firsthand, and B, know probably a little bit more, because I don't know about you, but I've never read the Quran or anything like that. I've read passages from it, I've read parts of it, but I've never read it in full. I don't know enough about it, so I would think it'd be very disingenuous for us to really hit on it in any really serious way, other than making fun of Obama being a Muslim or something like that. That's about as far as we can go.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've often compared like my approach to the Bible or any real like organized religion is from a systems engineering point of view, and computer engineering and a software engineering, because you have to keep security holes in mind. You have to think about different ways that people can circumvent the security measures that you put in.
Yeah.
And taking an honest, hard look at just take Christianity. We're on the topic of that tonight. If you take a look at that, I mean, there's just it is just filled with so many holes. I mean, the book should really just be a block of Swiss cheese, and it just amazes me how people can compartmentalize, and they can really just box up in like one area, and then everything else can just be is just seamless with reality. But then when it comes to that God belief, it's like they hit a fucking lead wall that they just can't penetrate. Like not even Superman can see past that shit.
Well, the problem with that though, and I'm only gonna mention people that I know that have specifically who have admitted that they haven't read the Bible. These people that you're talking about are people that I know who go to church. And they will listen to a man on the pulpit tell them not to listen to man read your Bibles, yet these people go to church every week. Don't read your Bibles and listen to the man on the pulpit tell them what God is, what's in the Bible, what isn't. And it's funny, like when you tell some of these people the things that are in the Bible, I won't mention her name, but I was talking to somebody one time, and she was cooking shrimp, and I said, "Why are you cooking shrimp for?" She's like, "Oh, it's why? It's for dinner tonight." And I said, "Well, that's against the Bible." And I quoted her the verse, and she says, "That's the Old Testament." I said, "What about the Ten Commandments? That's also the Old Testament." And conversation didn't go anywhere, but it's like, we talked later, and she admitted that she doesn't read the Bible. And I thought, that's your guidebook to life. And so these people have these closed off ideas. They hit these brick walls because they're happy with believing, which is fine. And they listen to this guy who apparently knows more than anybody. And he'll quote from the Bible, and they're fine with that. They're happy with that. So they'll see something like that sign and go, "Yep, that's it. That's all I need to hear. That fits with what I believe, and I'm happy, and I'm moving on with my day." And rant.
Any thoughts, Jeremy?
It's common that not only do many people who proclaim to be true believers or whatever, they just don't read their Bible, but when they do read it, they cherry pick. Yeah. And not even do they cherry pick, like they don't even research what beyond those pages, I just don't understand. Like, if somebody was to tell me, like, this is the book of life, bam, like everything you need to know, I want to know how it came to be, who wrote it. I want to know everything I could about it. And if they did that, they'd be like, "Oh, well, this is actually dates back to the Canaanites, and this was actually something else before, and then it changed, and then changed again, and then now it's in the Bible is saying this instead." So, if they just looked into certain aspects of their own text, they would see it's not valid.
Well, the problem is, though, is people, not everyone, but a lot of them will end up adding their own fan fiction to the Bible. So they'll read a book, they'll read a story, and then they add to the story to make it make sense to them. And then anytime they have doubt, Christianity invented the best villain, Satan. So anytime they read it and they haven't prayed before they read this book, because apparently you have to pray and accept the book before you can understand it. Anytime they have doubt, that's Satan. So let me pray more. Let me talk to my pastor. He's going to fix this for me. Boom, they're done. So I get why. I think it's dishonest, but I've used this before. It's like buying a desk from IKEA, getting the instruction manual, and then not understanding it, and then calling IKEA, and IKEA going, well, in order for you to understand this instruction manual that we gave you, you have to tell us that we're the only furniture company on the planet. You'll only buy from us from now on, and then we'll help you build this desk for you. And then you accept them as a one true furniture store, and bam.
That's actually a great analogy.
Well, actually, a very interesting thing here. I'm currently reading a book called The Power of Parable. And it's basically a deconstruction of the Gospels, and the writer makes the case that the entire, like, each Gospel is just one big parable about Jesus, right? And it's really interesting because, like he states how there's individual parables in it, and they even contradict themselves in how people are supposed to understand them. Because, at one point Jesus says that he's of course here to come and preach and whatnot, and then after he dies, he sends his apostles out to go and preach the word, right? Well, apparently the only way, his sermons and whatnot were meant to deceive those people, and only the people that talked directly to Jesus knew the true meaning behind what was saying or something like that. So there's a real big difference in it. But to kind of throw in some fan fiction here, I recently was reading Bart Ehrman's the Lost Gospel of Judas. Where he actually went and studied it. Yeah, mm-hmm. And there's this one part in it where apparently there was some fan fiction going around in the first century about Jesus, about how he took Mary Magdalene up on this mountain, and then he pulled some chick out of his rib, out of his side, just put her on the ground and raped her right there, and then he eats his own cum. I mean, I would love to bring that up to a Christian. What?
Well, this is what fascinates me about, whenever I hear a modern-day Christian, bash the Catholic Church and say that their King James Bible is the one true Bible, because essentially, and I'm going to completely, not get this right, but essentially what happened back in the day is the Catholic Church beat out all the other different types of new Christian denominations that were out there. They won the war in that. And then they decided pretty much they're going to put the Bible together. So they omitted so many different books, including the Gospel of Judas, because it didn't fit within their version. So it's always fascinating to me, okay, why were certain books not put in? Well, it's obvious why the Gospel of Judas didn't get put in, but it really makes you wonder, if those books are invalid, can't they all be? It's just... that's pretty
what's really amazing... Yeah, what's really amazing about that whole thing is, the fact that there are so many different revisions to the things that were included in the Bible to begin with. If you just look at the timeline of just one of the Gospels, it's okay, well, these parts were written here. Well, then this part was added later because this issue came up. And you just really see this evolution of the Jesus character. And it's it really frustrates me when a Christian tells me, well, the Gospels are just historical.
Yeah, or like I was going to say before, how they say that the Catholic Church has it all wrong, yet when King James, when he pretty much put the Bible back together, he took out 7 books because they either talk about divorce, or in the book of I think Maccabees it mentions purgatory. And so it's funny how it took either God or somebody 1,500 years after Jesus died for the one true church to come about. That's an issue right there. And so I don't think the Catholic Church is valid, but for anybody to say that, oh, that church is invalid, you're basically taking your father church and saying that they're wrong, but we're right, because pretty much, I don't know.
To add on to what Mr. Godless Engineer was saying earlier. One of my favorite examples of that is the Gospel according to Mark. Passages, let me see, it was 16:9 through 20, were added much later. Well, not much later, and then for a long time, there was actually an asterisk which had a bullet below that said these passages were added later, and then not until the KJV was that annotation taken out. So and that's a really important. Those are really important passages too. That's his actual resurrection. That's before it was just like a cliffhanger ending, where they show up to the tomb and it's empty and that's it. And it's up to the reader at that point to assess whether or not what happened to his body. Was he stolen by thieves? Did he resurrect? So it was actually left with a really good kind of cliffhanger ending. And another thing I find extremely interesting is that the Gospel according to Mark was the first Gospel written and it's the shortest. And John was the last Gospel written and it's the longest. And then Matthew's a little bit longer than Mark. That was the second written. And then Luke was a little bit longer than Matthew, and that one's a little bit longer still, and then John is the longest. So it's funny to see that the one that was written the furthest time away from when Jesus supposedly lived knew the most about his life. So it makes no sense to me, but I find it interesting at least.
Well, to kind of stay on the issue of stories and parables and whatnot, I came across a story today about I'm guessing it was either a middle school or high school girl who was called into the principal's office because she had basically punched a kid's face in for snapping her bra, right, for flicking it, and then eventually snapping it to the point where it actually popped off. The story goes, is a working ER nurse. She gets called up by the principal and not told to come in, and she's given a little shit by, the principal about how much time it took her to get in there, and then, basically they're wanting to talk to her about the violence that her had done to this boy, right? And and when they explained the situation, the mom immediately came back with, "Oh, you mean, do I want to press charges for sexual harassment?" And so it's this very long kind of drawn story of the mom defending her daughter, in the face of somebody wanting to basically reprimand her for punching the kid, even though she had perfectly legitimate excuse to do it, because when the mom talked to the girl, she said that, well, I had asked him to stop several times, and then when it finally snapped off, I punched him a couple times in the face to get him to stop. But I looked up and on Snopes and even before I knew that you really couldn't verify because there was a lot of information that was redacted. But generally when you hear about these stories and they're real and based in reality, you see links to articles or whatnot. Well, there wasn't anything like. So people were taking this, for some reason, people were taking this as an actual event. Now, I want to stress that I believe this story is very beneficial. I think that it sends a very important message. I think that it makes a very, very important point. But I think that it would serve better as more of a story that's a comment on our current social society or our social system, rather than somebody purporting it out there to be like it's a true story. What are you guys' thoughts on people fake stories as real stories when they could just be so much more useful as just an actual story?
Jeremy, you can go ahead first if you want.
I love these anecdotal stories that people come up with. I do think they are very beneficial. I write some myself. I've written quite a few, but I've always made sure that it's almost impossible to believe that it was true. I've written ones regarding the legitimacy of a claim, but I used a guy walks into pool hall with a letter from Barack Obama saying he wants to shut down all the pool halls. Like, nobody's going to believe that. Yeah, I do think it's important, though, that, you know, if you are going to try and use an anecdotal story like that, that you do put in some kind of disclaimer saying, look, this is not true, or you add something that allows the reader to know that it's not true, because even if you make a very strong point with it, the moment that it's debunked as being false, it can completely destroy the point you were trying to make, because people are going to say, oh, that thing's just false anyway. It's going to be, you know, it's going to be taken as illegitimate, and you know, the message will be lost. So I think it is important that people, you know, when they do come up with these stories and try and pass them around, that they do somehow disclaim that this is not actually a true story. But what do you think about this?
I'll add to that and say that. Oh, were you done, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I would say, you know, as someone who does see the value in satire, I would probably hesitate on putting out disclaimers. But what I would recommend is for every single person that reads every single article that's ever existed to always assume that it, like for me, because I'm a satirist, I assume everything I read is Poe at first. That's just me. It's like a way to protect myself, because I see so much shit nowadays. We live in a world where that's become a thing. People will write these really crazy articles, and I see the Facebook posts. I see people flipping the fuck out because like somebody did this or somebody did that, and when you really look into it, you know, you can't expect anybody to ever, you know, we don't put disclaimers on our videos, right? And I'm probably never going to, unless it's like a really controversial video that I might put in there. Like if I'm talking about misogyny, I might in the description go, look, I really think that all women we're all equal, right? There's no, you know, but aside from that, you know, I won't rely on anybody to do that, because there are people out there who really want to fool people, and that's fine. They have a right to do that. But the thing is I think instead of hoping that people will put those disclaimers out, approach articles that you read with a grain of salt. If you really do care about the article, look into it to see if it's real or not. But to answer your question about picking apart the story, I think whether this an article is satire or not, there is definitely something, lessons to be learned from anything that you read. Like, you know, in this case with the girl getting her bra snapped, whether it's real or not, I'm sure that's happened to somebody at some point in this world. There's a lot of people on this planet. It's probably happened a few times. And even if this article was fake, it does tell a good story. That kid's probably going to get made fun of for the rest of his school career because he got knocked the fuck out by a girl because he was doing something stupid, you know. But I think at the end of the day, we need to approach things with a lot more caution. And if we're going to repost a link, or if we're going to get all bitchy about something that we saw, we need to make sure, you know, is this real or not? So.
Well, you see, you know what my concern really is that a lot of people, they like having examples of thing happening, and if they can base that example in reality, it works out so much better. And I guess I just feel that it's more detrimental, like, to purport a story as true.
Yeah.
Like it's more detrimental to report as true and it not being true, because then it's like both of you guys were saying that, you know, it can totally invalidate anything that you're trying to do with the story. So you know, just you know, writing these stories and making them up in whatever kind of genre that you want, because this was written kind of like a conversation kind of genre.
Right.
Like I think they're important, and like just like you said, Jason, that you know, these things are actually happening in the real world. That it is a sort of real world example of a problem. So, you know, I think it does make a really good point. I guess I just feel like people should start writing stories a lot more rather than trying to base everything in reality. Because you see that with other media too, like movies. You always see them trying to base it in. If they can put based on a true story at the front of it, people are going to get sucked in. I know, because I get sucked in.
Yeah.
Let's see. There's the movie Strangers.
Yeah.
Huh?
No, I see what you're saying, and before you go any further, also Fargo is another movie, but go ahead with your Strangers movie.
Well, yeah, there's this movie, I believe it's called Strangers, where basically a a mysterious person knocks on the door of this house, and then they basically terrorize his family, right?
Yeah.
It says at the very beginning of it, based on true events. And I was like, what fucking true events is this? And
Yeah.
so I looked into the background of the movie, and basically the director of the movie like heard somebody knock on his door, and then when he opened it, there was nobody there.
Right.
Like that's the true event that it was based on. I mean, it was a total letdown. And if you try to base something in reality and it's just not based in reality, I don't know. It just seems like to distract from what you were trying to do.
I mean, they did the same thing with Fargo. I mean, of course, at the end of the movie, they did say, okay, we're just kidding. This isn't based on a true story. But that story is completely false. But at the beginning, they say it's based on a true story. The thing is, too, is I think most of us, we get to the point where, like now, and even I had to do my research, that based on a true story doesn't necessarily mean that the story had anything to do with reality. But I think adding that to your movie, I bet you except for like maybe the movie Transformers, you could pretty much say that about any movie because you can base that. Like I could have a thought about a fork talking to me and stabbing me in the throat, and then make a movie about that and say that's based off of real events because I had that thought process, and that thought process was a real event. And that's where I go back to, like, with a lot of the stuff that's put out there. I know what you're saying about making stories versus making something based on reality. But I think we're like kind of at the mercy of these people, where instead of trying to make them do something or make them change, we almost have to approach almost everything we read, see, and hear. Just assume at first that you're getting fucked with, and then if you really care about the story enough, then look into the story, then understand if it's real or not, and then go from there.
I completely agree with you. I on my science page all the time, and I know a couple other people who say this a lot, is you have to start at the null hypothesis, which is generally disbelief. And then you have to disbelieve until you are given reason to believe, which is evidence. You need evidence to move from disbelief to belief.
Just like atheism.
right, exactly. Otherwise, you're taking it on faith.
Yeah.
Which faith is belief in the absence of evidence. I also just want to say that there was another movie that I want to throw out there. It's called The Fourth Kind, where it was half acted and half quote unquote found footage. Yeah. And when I was looking this one up, obviously it's bullshit because it's aliens, right? But they went as far and made the psychiatrist, one of the characters in the movie was a psychiatrist. They actually made her a webpage, a full legitimate webpage. That had like people's like what's it called, the when people can make like responses, like, or say how good a service is or a restaurant is or whatever, like Yelp type thing. They actually had people comments by people on there saying how good of a psychiatrist she was and everything like that, all from the city this supposedly took place in. I just thought that was awesome. They went that far with it, trying to, in the day and age where everybody's going to look everything, most people look things up, that they actually countered for that.
And I think what we have to do as human beings, especially within the secular community, I think a lot of us are proud of the fact that, whenever we say we lack a belief in a God, we do it because we do have that null hypothesis. We lack a belief until evidence shows. But I feel like, and myself included for the record, but I think that a lot of people don't apply that to other aspects of their life. And I think with these people, like in The Fourth Kind, I think it was brilliant. That got more people involved with the movie. It got more people, anytime we think something's based off reality, you're going to flip the fuck out, right? But I think it's on us as human beings to, like, whenever we see a post or see a movie or see anything, news, whatever, is to look it up ourselves. See how much is real, how much isn't, and always have that null hypothesis. It makes it fun, too. Gives you something to do, I think. Like, oh, shit, they made a claim. Let me look this up.
One thing that does bother me, though, is over the last couple of years, as I've branched away from atheism a little bit and not really talking about it and gone more towards skepticism and critical thinking in general, I've seen that atheists believe in some stupid shit. They just lack a belief in a God, but they believe in some really weird stuff and some stuff that's just generally not true that can be easily disproven. And it reminds me of a lyric from a song a friend of mine wrote, where he said, being a skeptic is far more than being an atheist, which is true, because if you're going to be if you want to be a true skeptic, you have to take absolutely everything with a grain of salt until you have evidence one way or the other. You know, it's either, you know, there's enough evidence to prove something or enough evidence to disprove something. But generally, like, you want to start at that area of disbelief. You want to take it at face, you know, kind of like, not at face value at first, but take everything with a grain of salt and then look into it more and see if there's any reason why this is true, or, you know, or even if like the evidence is bad, you can find that out too by looking into other sources. So, you know, I think that's really important in life in general.
I feel like my videos are a good training ground for that, because I was surprised when I don't get a lot of Christian feedback on my page. Usually when I do, it's a certain level of crazy depending on that person, but I find that I get more responses from atheists who want to spend the time to write out this long paragraph, you know, to give me the details of why, you know, how horrible I am because I took this, like, because I believe in a God, which I don't, by the way, but, you know, but because of this, or because they're trying to school me on what evolution is, and I'm like, and these are people I feel like honestly didn't watch more than 30 seconds of a video that I've made. Not that I expect them to, because they're, you know, they are what they are, but, you know, these are people that I'm sure, like, scream at the top of their lungs that they're skeptics and they do this and then whatever, but yet I get comments on my page, like, people flipping the fuck out, and I want to be like, look, I'm one of you, I'm just satire, but it's like at that point I don't, whatever, like, I don't put in a lot of thought into the comments, but I feel like, you know, I don't know. And I'm not bashing those people per se, because, like, I fall for shit too, so I'm not saying I'm perfect, and I see shit sometimes and I react emotionally too, but it's good training to want to actually follow through with the video. Watch the video all the way and go, oh my god, okay, I see what they did there. There we go. It's satire. It's a Poe. They're joking. Fuck that. You know.
Well, I don't know, Jason. I mean, do you take that stance with the Christians against dinosaurs?
I still think that Kristen Alclair is a Poe. I wouldn't call her a satire because she's sticking to her fucking guns. Like, she really, like, when she did that interview with Aaron, and I remember Rachel and Aaron were on the phone talking about her, and I was like, no, tell him that, you know, tell Aaron that I still think she's a Poe. And then Aaron got into this dialogue about how, you know, she lost her job, and he saw that she actually lost her job, and I'm like, it's a crazy world that she could have lost her job and then added her whatever it is to that, and then I still think she's. I mean, I haven't heard from her in a while, and not that I've talked to her personally, but I haven't seen any videos. Maybe she's done with it. I don't know, but I still think that I refuse to believe that there's somebody out there like that. But I've been wrong before, man. But that's an example of me applying this. Well, here's two things. One, I apply that mindset of everyone's a Poe until they prove to me otherwise. But I do that because it makes me more sane. Because I feel like I fool myself, because the minute I start to think that people are really like that, I lose all hope in this planet. So it's like my way of just keeping myself sane. So whether she is or not, I'm gonna pretend. I'm gonna make pretend in my own brain that she's not real.
Jeremy, any thoughts on Christians against dinosaurs? I'm just gonna say I'm on the fence. I don't know. To be one way or the other. People believe in some crazy shit, and so she may very well believe that, you know, dinosaurs are fabrication. I don't know her education. I don't know her upbringing. I don't know what type of church she's attended. I don't know what she's been taught. I know nothing about her, so I don't feel like I can make a judgment call one way or the other. I would say that I would be surprised if she was for real, but I don't want her to be. I guess that's what I want to say. Like, it's not really a belief thing. This is more of a personal, please God, don't be true. Type thing. You know, so yeah, that's my stance. I'm just going to say I honestly don't know. I don't know. I haven't really looked into her well enough. I do know that she did lose her job. But that could have been, like Jason said, that could have been for another reason, and she could have just tacked this on, you know, to keep the joke going. So we don't know. I know. Maybe if
I would like to.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead. I was
gonna say maybe if I had access to, like, one of her friends, you know, talk to one of her friends and ask them flat out, hey, is she for real? Because people tell their friends stuff that they don't share with the rest of the world. So if I had like access to her best friend and was able to ask them, hey, is she for real? Then maybe I'd be able to sway my decision a little easier.
The emotional part of me thinks that if she's not real, in my thoughts I go, fuck you then. Like, I do satire too, and even I spill the beans a little bit. Even I give out hints that I'm real. If you are satire and you're like sticking your guns, now you're just fucking stupid. Because it's like now, like you there's like a line that whenever you do any kind of satire or whatever, you stand on a fence, and you can either go too far to where you're not effective because you're just annoying, or you don't go far enough to where you're just not funny. Right, and so with her, it's like I feel like she's jumped over that fence, and she's like 4 miles down the road, and to her and maybe 10 of her friends, that might be the most amazing thing in the world. But it's like for the rest of us who appreciate that kind of humor, to not spill a little bit of the beans, I do have that mentality of like, go fuck yourself. Like, that's not. I'm done.
Well, just to kind of jump in here with some comments on the live chat. Pimp, she might want to talk to Monk because apparently he has a pet T-Rex.
Oh, nice.
That's what Pimp Monk says. Yeah.
I think I love. I think that conversation will be great.
Well, yeah. If you guys don't know, Pimp Monk is actually going to be interviewed by me tomorrow night.
Nice.
So
nice.
Tune in tomorrow night to see it.
Yeah, and if anybody is watching this video, everyone subscribe to that guy. That guy, I like watching him. I'm envious.
Also, Dan Farr, I'm sorry if I messed that up, Damien, but he said that he thinks that she knew too much to not be a Poe.
I 100% agree with him. I forget what it was, but they were talking about. The fuck was it? They were talking about mammoths and talking about the DNA or something, and she said a word that even Rachel, because Rachel and I watched it together, even Rachel was like, wait a minute. No. She comes off as stupid, but she knew what she was talking about right there. So I agree with Damien on that. I think she knows too much to be that crazy, to be that stupid, I think.
And then, let's see. Pimp Monk thinks that she's real. Me personally, just to throw my head in the ring on whether or not she's real, I still don't know. I'm on the fence, I guess, because I mean, like, she's put up like a whole funding video where she's asking for funding for her organization. She's got a whole website dedicated to it. She's either going full force into the whole satire thing and really trying to make it like a satirical organization, just really not wanting to give it away, or it's either that or she actually is serious.
Now, to be fair to Pimp Monk, even R and Raw would agree with him on that. So I'll give him that. But I would be careful with the word satire, though, because, like I said, it's a very fine line right there, and I feel like, and I don't even think I do it well. But like, look at Stephen Colbert. Like, he's not serious. I mean, he's on that fence, and I feel like she's gone past that point where I don't know if I'd call that even satire. I would probably call that trolling. But again, that's definitions, but anyway, I'm done.
Let's see. Stephen Corey says that she is dumb enough to make it real. I don't know. She like Jason said. I mean, she did set off some pretty knowledgeable stuff. So that's why I'm still kind of on the fence.
Yeah.
But to kind of round out the tonight here, because we're coming up on about 2 hours. How do you guys think that the general public accepting stories as true just immediately, like without any kind of scrutiny? How do you think that plays into religion and like the past of religion, like in accepting these stories that have been told? I mean, if today's people are so not skeptical and can just easily adopt stories that seem true to them at the time, how could that not be the same, like, it's like in the first century. Why couldn't like a lot of people like to say, well, Jesus had to exist. Now, I don't want to turn this into a discussion about whether or not Jesus existed or not. But why can't those people, with the amount of messiahs going around and everything like that, and all these fantastical things going on, why is it not plausible? Like a lot of people say that it's not plausible that shit was just made up. And I mean, this even reaches to the Christian base too, because they like to say that the entire Bible is historical fact.
Well, I feel like the difference, at least, I mean, because it is plausible. But I think the difference between then and now, and this is me, I have to assume how they thought back then. But nowadays, a lot of the stories that come out actually do fit reality a lot better than they did back in the day. Of course, people back in the day, not at Jesus' time, but before that, thought that Zeus threw lightning bolts on the ground. But I feel like today it's a lot easier to accept stories because they can, like with your story, the story that you talked about, that probably has happened at some point. That story may not be true, but because it seems reasonable, we can buy into those stories. I don't know if that's what you're asking, but I feel like it is plausible now. I don't know if Jeremy, if you want to add to that.
I'd have to say argumentum ad populum, otherwise known as appeal to the people, where people buy into something because a lot of people believe it. So they have this sort of comfort where, well, okay, if 5 billion people accept something to be true, it's got to be true. Well, that's not true at all. Take a look at how many people around the world are religious. Like, what is that? 6 billion people believe in some sort of deity. None of them are right. So that's what I really think it is. I think it's numbers, and the reason why it's so easy to believe today is because of how quickly stories can spread thanks to our inventions and our technology, especially with social media. And you have things like Twitter and Facebook where overnight, a video or a post or anything can get 10 million hits or 10 million views, and that's nothing. If it's catchy enough. I mean, look how many views Josh Furstein's videos got, or how many views or shares, what's his name? Ray Comfort gets, on every one of his posts. He gets like 7,000 shares per post, and it's bullshit.
But you also, I mean, technically though, I mean, you have to think with Josh Furstein. I'd be willing to bet that a majority of those views are people that think he's fucking crazy.
Yeah, so, I know that.
So yeah, more views doesn't necessarily mean belief, but I know what you're saying.
But a lot of, I was just giving him as example because that really shouldn't be shared by anybody. If people are laughing at him or not. But I see it a lot because I do delve a lot into pseudoscience, and I see a lot of these people posting things like using lavender oil can cure cancer, and I see that post has 15,000 shares on it. Like, are you fucking insane?
Yeah.
So people believe things more. I think probably because because of if a lot of people believe it, they're more likely to believe it themselves, and B, they want it to be true.
Yeah.
It's a comfort to them in one way or another. If you think that lavender oil can cure cancer, then you think, oh well, if I get cancer one day, I can take lavender oil.
Yeah.
Or if I think that if I pray or if I share this post, I'm going to win the lottery tomorrow or whatever.
Well, unless you're Benny Hinn, you want to faith heal people, but now you have the same issue. Now you're going to a doctor. That's kind of funny to me. But anyway.
That's my take on it, at least.
But yeah.
Actually, just to kind of play off of what you just said there, Jeremy. I mean, I think that's really applicable for first century because you had these religions at the time that were very angry. Like they were very strict. They were very, I think the word is esoteric. And then you've got somebody that invents or comes up with this religion. Whether or not it was Jesus is entirely different shit. But somebody comes up with this new religion that's based off of the old religion, and it offers hope, and it offers these magical, fantastical things, and it offers a better life. I mean, I think that what you were saying is that people and people in the comments are saying is that people are wanting to believe these things because they want to be made, they want to have hope, and so I think that's really applicable. And well, another thing I wanted to bring up was the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. If you think about how that started, that was just a simple letter, written to, I think it was a legislative house or something like that.
It's actually a school board in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, exactly. Now that's where it started, but now it's grown like humongously. Like even Facebook has integrated in pirate speech into their available language. Not to say that those two are correlated or anything. I'm just saying that the whole genre of faux religion has just greatly expanded, and so I think that if Christianity were to have started today, I think that it could grow just like Flying Spaghetti Monster, probably even more so. But I think that it would be met with just as much scrutiny as the Flying Spaghetti Monster. Though.
I think,
you would have people that.
No, I was just gonna say though, I think a lot of people have a problem separating what they want to be true versus what is true. And we're all guilty of that. I've ran some thought experiments in my head that if somebody close to me dies, there's probably a good chance that I might be at their grave talking to their gravestone. I know that's not real. I know they're not going to hear me. But I feel like there is a level of comfort that people want and need. And by the way, I'm not saying I would do that or would. I'm just saying I can understand that mindset because you want something, you want hope, you want this or that. But I feel like where a lot of people disconnect is they can't understand what they want to be true. They can't. How do I say that? Basically, what you want to be true and what is true are two separate things, and people do want to live in, for whatever reason. I'm not saying it's bad or good, but people want to live in this kind of fantasy world. It makes their life better for whatever reason.
Because reality sucks. Why do you think drugs are so popular?
And beer and everything.
Yep.
And so yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you guys joining me tonight. Like I said, that was just to kind of round out the conversation here, and just to kind of put. I am the Godless Engineer. If you are not subscribed to me now, I hope that you will go down there and subscribe. If you liked our discussion tonight, don't forget to leave a like on the video. Join me tomorrow night on Secular TV, which is a totally different issue right now, but on Secular TV for Pimp Monk's interview. I can't wait to talk to you, Pimp Monk, if you indeed are still watching, which I think you are. I can't wait to talk to you. I can't wait to talk to everybody, during the show and everything like that. Jason and Jeremy, do you want anything as we go out?
No, I don't even know how to spell my own YouTube channel anymore. So if you want, John, if you want to put my YouTube channel in the links, and if people want to add or subscribe or watch my, Jeremy Nice silly antics or whatever, by all means. But that's about it. I hope everyone enjoyed the show, and I hope I made some sense. I'm not drunk tonight, so it's good.
All I'm going to say is, if you have any questions or comments, leave them. And I'm such a narcissist that I come back and I check on these videos all the time to see what people have said. So
yeah,
that didn't turn out too well last time, though, did it, Jeremy?
Oh fuck! Tell me about it. Yeah, but I will stop by and check it out. So if you have any questions or comments, leave them.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
All right. Thanks a lot, John.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for joining me. I mean, otherwise it'd just be me here yelling at a camera.
I do the same thing. I do the same exact thing, so.
Yeah. All right, everybody have a nice night, day, weekend, whatever. Don't forget to think skeptically and stay godless.